Last week, we talked about reflecting on 2024 and starting to dream about what you want for 2025. So, what do you want it to look like? You know, dreaming isn't just the first step. Now it's time to go ahead and get real about our success and what we want it to look like for you and what might be standing in your way. So, today we're going to be going ahead and taking everything a step further. We'll be talking about how to figure out what really matters to you and then how to actually let go of those things that aren't serving you anymore and how to start walking out a vision for your life that is meaningful and aligned with where you're trying to go. So this isn't about being perfect. It's about getting clear about where you're trying to go, how to make those intentional choices and take one small step at a time. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before we dive into what success could look like for you, let's go ahead and talk about something that most of us don't even realize is really going on. We're measuring ourselves against that ideal woman. And I know I've talked about her before, but she doesn't even exist, right? And so, trust me, it's a trap we all fall into as women. But think about it for a second. Like when my grandmother was raising her family, the only ideal woman she had to encounter might have been comparing herself to her neighbor, maybe a woman at church, an occasional, maybe a magazine, right? Because those had been on the market at the time. But they rarely had time to spend looking at those magazines. So it might be maybe even a character in a book. But today, we're bombarded with all these images, stories, social media, movies, right? Like we're being bombarded by advice from everywhere. Podcasts, YouTube, right? Instagram, TikTok. That list, it continues to go on. Without even realizing it, we've started building this ideal woman in our minds, and everybody's ideal woman is completely different. But she's fit, she's stylish, she's an amazing cook, right? She has a Pinterest-worthy home, a thriving career, like she has perfect kids, and somehow this woman, this ideal woman, she still has time with all of that perfection to do exercise, journal at sunrise, and have the perfect quiet time. And here's the problem. That woman doesn't even exist. She's like this mashup of a million different people that we have collected in our minds and has been carefully curated to make us feel like we're not even enough. And let me just tell you something. She's not meant to be your measuring stick, right? We've absorbed this idea, what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be like. And even when we're not paying attention, we collect these new things to add to that ideal woman. In a way, it's like we're scrolling social media, we're flipping through a magazine, we're reading a book, and we're in a checkout line looking at the magazines on the rack, and without even questioning it, we adapt ourselves into a pretzel to somehow try to fit this impossible standard. And seriously, we've all been there. I've been there. I've had seasons in my life where I felt like I had to do it all. I had to be this perfect business owner, perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect friend. But the truth is, it's really exhausting and it's not even a real person I'm trying to measure up to. And here's the truth that we all have to sit with. We all only have 24 hours in a day. That's it. And you have a choice. Like, are you going to spend your time chasing these impossibilities? Or are you going to define success in a way that actually matters to you and fill your 24 hours with something that's really important? Okay. I used to dream of living in Virginia Beach with a community of hippie people. I know when you look at me, that might be hard to imagine, but it's true. And while this still kind of sounds like fun, it's not where my heart is right now in this season of my life. I love my nomad life that I'm currently living. But even one day, I might not want to live that anymore. Like it might not serve me anymore. And guess what? That's totally okay and fine, right? Dreams can evolve, and so can you. And so here's what I want you to take away from all of this. You have permission to change your mind. Something that satisfied you in your 20s and 30s, it might not be what's best for you right now in this time of your life, in this season. And you're allowed to recalibrate, you're allowed to let go of old dreams, and you're allowed to set a new course for what tomorrow looks like, for what 2025 is going to look like for you. So think of your life like a GPS, okay? Sometimes we take detours, sometimes the route changes. And that's not a failure. I want to remind you that it's not a failure. It's just a different way to get to that destination that you're trying to get to. And that destination, that's success. Whatever that looks like for you, that is success for this season of your life. So your process, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. You can learn from others, but at the end of the day, your path to success is unique to you. No coach, no influencer, nobody can tell you what that is. Okay. What matters isn't the exact steps you take, it's totally just staying accountable to your own vision and showing up for yourself. So, that compass word you picked last week, that is the accountability. That is, if you stick to that, it's success. Okay. So I want you to take a moment to reflect, like, what's the one thing you've been chasing that might not even be yours to want? Or what is one outdated idea of success that doesn't serve you anymore? Just like my Virginia Beach idea, being with the hippies. Like, write it down in your workbook. It's a powerful step in redefining what success means for you right now in this season of your life. So don't forget, if you missed last week's live stream, you can go find the replay in the Facebook group or on YouTube. That's where we started laying down the foundation for today's conversation. So go check it out. It's the perfect place to start this process. Okay. So let's get real for a moment. We've talked about redefining success. Now we're going to tackle something that no one likes to admit. So, what happens when you realize you've gone so far down that wrong road that turning back feels totally impossible? It's scary. I know it is, but we need to talk about it. Okay. Have you ever poured so much of yourself into something, a job, a relationship, a dream, right? That when you get to a certain point, it may not feel right anymore, but you have to, you're just almost internally driven to keep pushing. You know, you tell yourself, it'll work eventually. I've already come this far. I've invested so much. I just need to work a little harder, or I just need to wait for that perfect moment, that right moment where everything lines up and it works. Okay. So you tell yourself to stick it out. I have totally been there. And that is called sunk cost bias. It's this idea that because you've already invested so much time, energy, and money, you can't let it go. And even if it's not even serving you anymore, you can't let it go. And let me just tell you, it's one of the hardest things to overcome. We've all been there. I've been there. Like, maybe it's a career path you've been climbing for years, or it's a business idea where you've poured so much money and investment into this, or a program you've joined that helped one point in time, but now is no longer serving you. Like, you think, I can't quit now. I've come so far. I've worked too hard. But here's the truth. Just because you invested in something doesn't mean it's still the right path for you. You might be at a place where you need to make a detour. Okay, holding on could actually be the very thing that is holding you back and holding you hostage and keeping you exhausted. Let's go back to that compass word that you chose for 2025. Does the thing you're holding on to align with where you want to go when you use that word as your filter? Like, does it support the person you want to become this year? If it doesn't, I promise you, it's going to drain your energy. It's going to drain your time. It's going to drain your resources, your money. leaving nothing left for you and that in that path you're really trying to go. You only have so much to give. And if you're spending all of it defending or fighting for something that's no longer serving you, for that sunk cost biased opportunity, how will you ever be able to move forward? That's a hard question, and I know it's hard. I've been there. In fact, I'll share an example. Like recently, I had to let go of a program that I totally love. It had helped me in so many ways, but when I had to be honest with myself, it wasn't aligned anymore with where I was going to next. I had grown, I had changed, and it wasn't serving me anymore. And it was a sunk cost bias situation. It wasn't just hard because of the investment. Like I had made friends in that program, built connections, and it felt like a part of me. And so when I say I totally understand how hard this is, I really am right there with you. But then someone asked me a simple question recently, and here's the question. Is it still mission critical for where you're going? Woo, that was so hard, right? Like that question, it stopped me in my tracks. Like when I removed the emotions and looked at like things objectively, it was like I realized I'd been holding on out of habit, not alignment. And letting go was really hard, but it freed me up so much to be able to focus my energy, my time, my resources, my money, to be able to put it all and invest it all on the path that I'm actually taking now. And that was really exciting once I realized that. So I'm going to be that person for you today. Like, I'm going to be asking you that same hard question. And it's hopefully going to cut through the fog and bring complete clarity. Hopefully, it's going to remove the excuses and the beliefs that you've been telling yourself. Like, is the thing you're holding on to mission critical for where you want to go in 2025? Like, did that help remove the emotions and all the things and just cut straight to what you need to ask yourself? Like, does it support your vision and your compass word? Like, where are you holding back? Like, be honest with yourself. The only things you should keep in your life right now are the ones that truly support where you're headed. Okay, so here's your next step. I want you to take a moment to reflect. Like, write down one thing, and you've got your workbook, so you can do this there. Write down one thing in your life right now that might not be serving you anymore. And then I want you to ask yourself, like, if I removed all the emotions, would I still keep this in my life? Does it align with my vision for 2025? All right, let's talk about something most people won't admit. I'm going after the hard stuff today, okay? But even the most successful, put together people you see on social media and YouTube or your neighbors, they have messy lives and messy parts of their lives too. And honestly, that's okay because perfection is not meant to be the goal, okay? It's the progress you make in life. So I used to look at really successful people and think like, wow, their life must be so easy. They have figured it out. It's so perfect. They have so much money to pay for a cook, all the things, right? You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones who seem to have it all together. Their homes, they're always clean. Their kids are perfectly behaved. They have the monograms on their clothes and their backpacks, right? And they're killing it at work. And somehow they still find time to go work out and have the perfect body. And they drink those beautiful green smoothies. Here's the truth. We've all got messy parts of our lives, the challenging parts. Like every single one of us on this planet have a challenging part of our lives. And if no one's told you that before, like let me be the one to say it out loud and very clearly, there's no such thing as a perfect life. Okay, so when I started living my nomad life, right, it looked like I had simplified everything. Like I didn't have to cut the grass anymore. No more weeding flower beds. No more worrying about the pile of laundry on the guest room floor. Like, right? And honestly, I loved it. It works for me. I really do love my life. But here's the part you won't see some influencer talking about on Instagram or YouTube. It's not all roses. Well, maybe because my last name is Rose, there are roses, but nothing is familiar when you are living on the road like this, right? Every grocery store aisle is totally different. There's no familiar faces, no neighbors, no coworkers that you can make eye contact with and just smile because you see them on a regular basis. You don't have a church family that you get to meet up with and go out to lunch with on Sundays. Like sometimes, seriously, it feels like you're lost all of the time. Like there have been moments where I just feel this sense of being lost and I just want to break down and cry. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me, but I want you to understand like the point is even when it looks glamorous and adventurous, like there's total trade-offs. Okay? Every lifestyle comes with a challenge and nobody's life is perfect, no matter what it looks like from the outside. Okay? So here's something I've totally learned from spending time with life coaches over the last 2 years. Okay. Life coaches aren't perfect either. What? No. And I'm not perfect, right? Like, even I skip my skincare routine or eat something I shouldn't every once in a while. But here's the difference they have figured out what works for them, and they have figured out how to help things work for you. So the people who look like they have it all together, like it's not that they've figured out how to do everything. It's that they've learned what matters most and they focus on that. That's what we're talking about today. So for example, some people are okay with messy dishes, like sitting in the sink. And if those dishes sitting in the sink can be dirty, it means they can go out and live their best lives, their dreams. Okay. Others know that that clutter and the messy dishes sitting in the sink, you know, cause them to not be able to achieve those dreams in their life. So they have to find ways to tackle those things. So it's not about perfection, it's about priorities. It's about aligning things that matter to you most. So let me ask you this, like what's something messy in your life that doesn't actually matter for you to live out your dreamy life? Maybe it's the laundry. Maybe it's like cooking gourmet meals every night, right? Like, as long as it's healthy, like, can you give yourself permission to let yourself be messy in that area? This was hard for me. I grew up trying to live as a perfectionist, okay? But on the flip side, like I want you to ask yourself like what's something messy that really does matter to you? Like something that's totally worth figuring out because it's keeping you from living the life that you want. So the goal isn't to fix everything. It's to get clear on what really matters and focus all your energy there. So I want you real quickly to take a moment right now to think about two things. Like what's one messy thing you can let go of because it doesn't matter for your dreams? And then what's one messy thing you want to tackle because it really does matter? Like write it down in your workbook. The key is to remember nobody is perfect. No one's life, not mine, not those influencers, not anyone's. No one's life is perfect. So the key is to stop chasing perfection. It doesn't exist. And start celebrating the progress that you make towards the life that's right for you. Every step you make in that direction is success. Okay. So, friend, today we've totally tackled some big questions. What success really looks like for you. And you're going to have to take a minute to process through that. But learning how to pivot when you realize something isn't serving you and how to stop chasing that perfection, that ideal woman, and start celebrating your progress. These aren't easy conversations to have, but they are very important. And the fact that you showed up here today, you're showing up for your success and for yourself, it's a huge step forward, and I celebrate that with you. You don't have to figure it all at once. Okay. Success isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about taking one intentional step at a time. So keep moving forward, right? Keep moving towards that dream, towards the things that align. And remember, you're so much more capable and deserving than you think. So if you're feeling stuck or you need help bringing clarity to your vision for 2025, like I'd love to help you create that personalized action plan. This month, I'm totally offering 5 slots, okay, at a promotional price of $27 for a 30-minute session. That's cheaper than eating out, okay? So I want to help you. Like that's why I've cut the price so low. And in that time, we'll go ahead and get crystal clear about your dreams and map out those first steps to taking action on making that happen. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Email me at Michelle@MichelleDayRose to book your session today. But next week, we're diving into one of my favorite topics, and it's building on today's session, and that's the art of intentional living. If you've ever felt like life is just happening to you instead of being you creating your life, like this conversation is totally for you. We'll talk about how to stop living on autopilot and start making choices that align with your vision for 2025. So mark your calendar. I'll see you next Wednesday at 1:30 Central Standard Time right here live. And before you go, grab that workbook in the Facebook group. Like if you haven't already, write down all of your biggest takeaways from today's session. Keep showing up, keep dreaming, and I'll see you next week.